All right, guys. So this is episode 1 of the Boost Lacrosse interview series. We are joined by two coaches from Marin Academy up in Northern California, an up-and-coming program who over the past 5 years has pretty much gone from almost not enough players to field a practice to almost dominating their league. Obviously, you guys know that the topic of this talk is basically just it's about hard work and trying to show kids how much work it takes to actually, win a championship, to be part of that kind of team, to then play at the next level. What we're trying to do with this is get a point of view from you guys as coaches and former players, what kind of hard work is put in year round to really achieve that success. So Josh, Augie, let you guys take it away, introduce yourselves and where have you played, where you grew up and what you guys are doing now.
So my name's Josh Burchett. I'm the head coach at Marin Academy. I've been here. This is my 8th season, and I grew up back in the Boston area.
I'm Augie Kirshner. I'm the assistant coach. I played at Bowdoin College. I'm from New Jersey originally.
But so tell me a little bit, Josh. Obviously, you've been there for 8 years, 10 years?
8 years, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about just the program from when you took it on to kind of where it's at now.
Yeah, so when I got here in spring of 2008 was my first year. We had 6 returning players. I was the 4th coach in 4 years, and so a lot of upheaval and kids kind of coming and going. I convinced 9 freshmen to play, 5 of whom had never played. So we went into the season at 15. Our starting defenseman broke his wrist in the second game, so we were promptly down to 14 and basically played Ironman lacrosse for the rest of the season. And then we went from 2008 with 15 kids to 2012 winning the North Coast section title. So obviously that freshman class had a good run, and we were able to kind of build on it from there. And then Augie's been here for 3 years. This is your third year? Yeah. Third year. So and then since 2012, I've pretty much been in, the top 10 of the North Coast section, which is about 60 plus schools. We're the smallest school at 400 boys and girls to ever win a section title. So we've definitely found a way to be successful with smaller numbers, and make the most out of what we have. So it's been a great ride for sure.
Obviously, you upgraded from going from a Colby coach to a Bowdoin coach. So Augie, give me a little bit about your experience growing up, Bowdoin, playing at Bowdoin and the success that you guys had, and then trying to relay that same stuff that you learned to kids at Marin Academy.
Growing up in New Jersey, I went to prep school too, like you, and playing in a NESCAC. It's a different level of competition. My youth teams, my high school team were a lot of kids going Division I, kind of a different level of competition and practice among your teammates and also the teams you play against. But I think, especially coming from Bowdoin out here, NESCACs are the types of schools that a lot of kids, especially at MA, are looking at. And I think that experience has helped me relate a lot to our guys. I've been there, I played there, and I can help, guide them, trying to get them to that level. And I think, coming from back east, and Josh, knows the same thing too from his experiences. But, one thing that we've really tried to instill in this program is that sort of competitive spirit, the constructive competitiveness where guys are competing with each other every day in practice, pushing each other to get better. Which is a challenge at such a small school. We don't have the same kind of numbers of kids that, I had in high school or my youth leagues growing up, but something that we have been able to bring to the program a lot. And a lot of that's come through the off-season work we've been able to do with the strength and conditioning stuff, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But having that sort of constructive, competitive spirit on the, in the program and on the team has definitely helped us a lot, this year especially and in the last couple of years.
The challenge for us is that, as the athletic director, I certainly want our kids to play as many sports as they can. Even as a lacrosse coach, I feel like the more sports they can play, the better. They hear from different coaches about a lot of the same ideas that we're talking about in lacrosse. But, I think the challenge is for those kids to be competitive and play on other teams and play with other groups of kids and for other coaches, and to be able to translate those skills that they develop in soccer and basketball, even water polo, into the lacrosse world. And there's no substitute, like you say, for hard work. And I know if they're playing another sport, I don't have to worry about what they're doing. I know that they're out competing every day. And if they're not, that they're involved with our strength and conditioning program and getting the most out of that and trying to compete in the different ways we set them up, through that strength and conditioning piece too.
Yeah, and that seems to be another big thing, right? Is the discussion of not focusing on one sport at too young of an age and just keep playing and keep being an athlete. But do you guys find it hard to motivate some of these kids to, not accept, but I guess recognize the opportunity that they have and the amount of hard work that actually is involved?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard because, how do you quantify what hard work is? I mean, at the end of the day, only the kids know if they push themselves out of their comfort zone to some degree. And we get to know that as coaches over the course of the season to see, when they lay it all out there, we know what that top level is. And so we were shooting to get to those kids to that point as you go through. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you can't, getting better at throwing and catching, getting better at basic skills only comes with time. You can't substitute anything else for that. You got to put in time, and we've definitely seen it, in the last couple of years with the kids that came in as freshmen and were pretty decent and then became impact kids as sophomores and juniors. And invariably it was the kids that put in those time in the off season with shooting, with stick skills, with the strength conditioning piece. There's no shortcut for that. Time is time, and you got to make the most of that as you go through. And that's why when we started doing the work with you, even when you were here before, the boost thing took off, that's where the kids really responded. They could look to each other as the ones to push them, and if the kids are pushing each other peer to peer, as much as I hate to say it, that's going to have more weight than, the big hairy dude screaming at him all the time.
Right.
When your buddy's when your buddy's telling you got to work harder, that's going to hold a lot of weight. And that's what we've always pushed towards, to get these kids to hold each other accountable throughout all of that process.
Yeah, I mean, that seems, unfortunately, you talk about the hard work and trying to instill this in kids, and you have this whole other side of the lacrosse culture right now that's all about gear. And I mean, it's always been gear, but it's almost to a point where it's crazy, and it's taken away from the time they put into practice.
Well, it's funny, Augie and I, on the weekends go back and forth, texting back and forth, having, what's great is since we don't have, there's not a Division I program or even a Division III program out here. There's some very competitive club teams, but their schedule's not as, it's not as regular as you would see if you were at UNC or Duke or someplace like that. So what's helped out here is that ESPNU's taken on all of those games, and our kids can watch those games. And Augie and I go back and forth texting each other, did you see Nana play that Notre Dame ran? Did you see what they did? What UNC did against Syracuse, whatever that was like. And to then send that to the kids and give them a chance to say, hey, listen, check this out and see what they did. And the hardest part about that is convincing them that, we don't expect you to be, Matt Kavanaugh. That's not what we're saying. But what we're expecting, any kid that plays Division I lacrosse is going to have this base fundamental piece that's pretty tied down. And that's the part that we're asking to do. Watch how they move off ball. Watch how they set a pick. Watch how they, defensively they come out in a set, good foundation position as you go through that. Not that, they're look at how awesome these guys are. No matter how good they are or how young you are, you still have the same foundation you're trying to work on. And so you can really learn a lot from that, going through that, as opposed to wow, look how sick his string kit was,
Yeah, or look at the awesome tights he's wearing in the game today.
Ah, tights! But it's the whole hard work thing, like we were talking about, we're starting to get that where guys do work hard and do a lot in the off season. And I think now, Josh was saying, the big push we're trying to make is it's not only physically working hard, but also convincing them to become a student of the game, watching great lacrosse at kind of a different mindset. You're trying to understand what they're doing, not just for the highlight reel. And, your channel and everything that's available on YouTube, you can learn how to play the game through videos. And some of our, we have face-off guys who love YouTube videos and have learned a ton just from studying and practicing on their own. And I think now there's so many resources out there that we're really pushing, trying to get our guys more involved with, learn from other coaches and learn from the best players around. So.
Yeah, and on that same note too, like if you guys had to say to a kid, that possibly was coming to your program or even moving on to the next level, if you had to give them like 3 things that they should work on and just focus on, what would those be?
Oh man,
I know there's a lot, right?
Only 3?
Well,
yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what we said before. There's fundamental pieces that we do in practice every day. I think, you can't be too strong, you can't be too fast, you can't be too coordinated. So footwork is a huge piece of that. You can do that on your own every single day as much as you want. I think the strength piece, starting smart and understanding and getting foundational lifts and those things done. Start with body weight stuff and work up from there. And as Ogden, I've said 1,000 times, like, have your stick in your hand, like take that stick out and go just show up with a bucket of balls. But I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, 25 right, 25 left, go back and forth and run through that a few different times. Defensively, I think, what I talk to our kids about all the time is that the ground ball piece and any footwork stuff that's going to happen. I mean, we take our sticks away from our poles so many times because they want to throw a check or go rusty gate or whatever it is, as opposed to understanding that defense is footwork first and foremost, and using stubby sticks and using half sticks to go through that to really stress you can play good defense with just your feet and no stick, and so I think the strength and conditioning piece is big. I think the footwork piece is big. And then, being comfortable with your stick and what you can do with that, certainly on the offensive end for sure.
For me, I think the biggest thing that I look for, I don't know if you can really develop it, but we preach effort and attitude, and, kids who just come into it with an open mind, willing to buy into our systems, to, hold their teammates accountable, work hard, lead by example, all that kind of stuff. Just compete relentlessly. I mean, those are the things that I would want out of my incoming players. I think the fundamentals we can teach. It's the intangibles that are really special.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say all that, because those are, I remember like just thinking back to the days, coaching at MA, the guys that stick out in my head were the ones that just, every shift that they were midi or if they were attacking, they're riding, they went all out, every effort, knowing that, I'm going to get a little rest, but I'm going, and I'm not going to leave anything, to people's imagination. Like, I'm putting every effort I have into this game.
I mean, it's that idea of selling out every time you go out. We certainly, that's something that's been a big, we're a deeper team than we've been in the past, and so there's no reason not to. When you're out there, this is your time to get after it. And I think the other thing I'd say too is, like, know your role and know what your role is on the team and know what your role is in the group, and accentuate that as much as possible. Whether that's D short stick midi, or whether that's a pole, or you're a clearing midi, or an offensive midi, whatever that might be, make sure you know what that role is when you're talking to your coaches and your teammates, and B, do that and whatever that role might be to the best of your ability. And either you get better, but what's even more important is that the greater good gets better. If every kid, 7 kids at a time, are doing their thing as best they can, I mean, that's what separates good teams from great teams. There's a lot of good teams out there that have kids that can play and can do some one-on-one stuff, but the team that can do it as a group of 6 is what separates itself really quickly from the team that has a group of 4 or 3 or 2, whatever that might be. And that's, I think, what's helped us so much as a program, is gaining that depth of program and having kids that are fired up to play together, most importantly, and then fired up to play as a group. Going out there as one is a huge piece of that.
So if anybody's watching this, players, effort and attitude, that's it. It seems like, we keep coming back to that topic. If you guys ever watch those games, I'm sure you do, when you see Joey Sankey and Jimmy Bitter on the ride, those guys never stop. They don't stop until they hit that midline, and it's every single time. And the announcers talk about it. And that's not a hard thing to do. Just go as hard as you can every time. Like you said, it's effort and attitude.
I would add to, as consistency on skills. But the other thing I think that, we work with a lot is just everybody has some contribution that they can make. You know, everybody's good at something, and for us in our systems, it's a lot about really excelling at those strengths. So, like if you're a fast guy, then consistently use your speed to, you know, win whatever battle you're in. Or if you're a physical or a big guy, you know, learn how to be physical and use that asset to your strength as a strength consistently. And, you know, not everybody's going to have everything. It's just a matter of how much juice can you squeeze out of what you have.
There's no question that there's a bunch of people that told Joey Sankey that he would not be able to play at UNC, you know, but there's no question that no one would ever question his attitude or his effort as you go through that. I mean, I don't know the kid at all, but you watch him play and you're like, this is what I want every one of my kids to look like, you know, and if we don't have to coach attitude and effort, and we have that much more time to spend on skills and, you know, developing plays and developing defensive schemes, and those are two things that we don't have to worry about, then that's a lot more time to get better as a player.
All right, guys. Well, good luck with the rest of your season. Thank you for doing this. Yeah, guys, if any of you are watching Marin Academy out in Northern California, check them out. They are a force to be reckoned with, and will be winning every championship back-to-back in the next couple of years. I'm just calling it. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
all right, man.
See you guys.
See you, bud.